It's the 9th of October 1995. Amtrak's Sunset Limited has just derailed in a remote stretch of the Arizona desert. At first, it seemed like a tragic accident, but when a passenger discovered a note hidden beneath a rock beside the tracks, what it revealed would transform the derailment into one of the most baffling mysteries in American railroad history. In the fall of 1995, Amtrak Sunset Limited departed Miami, Florida, bound for Los Angeles, California. The almost 2,000-mile journey would take passengers across the southern United States, passing through Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, before reaching California roughly 2 days later. The train consisted of 2 locomotives pulling 12 passenger cars and carrying around 258 passengers. Among the passengers was Neil Halford, a key figure later in the story. Also on board was 41-year-old Mitchell Bates, a sleeping car attendant and a 20-year Amtrak veteran who would be taking care of the passengers. On the night of October 9th, 1995, having covered well over 1,000 miles of its cross-country journey, the Sunset Limited traveled through a remote section of the Arizona desert near the small town of Palo Verde, more than 50 miles west of Phoenix. Ahead, the railroad crossed Quail Springs Wash by way of a trestle bridge. Rising around 30 feet above the dry riverbed below, the bridge stood in an isolated section of desert where access was limited, and much of the surrounding landscape was little more than open sand and scrubland. At around 1:30 a.m., passengers were awakened by the sound of the train's brakes screaming in the darkness. As the Sunset Limited crossed to the trestle bridge, it derailed. The 2 locomotives and 8 of the 12 passenger cars left the tracks, with 4 of them plunging 30 feet into the riverbed below. Many awoke to darkness, violent impacts, and people screaming around them. In the immediate aftermath of the derailment, passengers and crew helped the injured and searched through the damaged cars for trapped survivors. Some escaped through windows before returning to help others who were trapped or struggling to get out. The train had come to rest in a remote stretch of the Arizona desert, more than 50 miles from Phoenix. The derailment had left 78 passengers and crew injured, some seriously. Sadly though, not everyone survived. 41-year-old sleeping car attendant Mitchell Bates, a 20-year veteran of Amtrak, was killed when the car he was traveling in plunged from the bridge. In the nearby communities, emergency calls had triggered a large-scale rescue effort, but reaching the Sunset Limited would prove challenging. The derailment had occurred in an isolated section of the desert, with few roads leading directly to the crash site. Rescuers were forced to travel off-road, through dry riverbeds and across open desert, while helicopters were brought in to support their efforts. However, before rescuers could reach the scene, one passenger made a startling discovery beside the tracks. A discovery that would reveal the derailment had been no accident. Someone had deliberately sabotaged the Sunset Limited. As passengers waited for rescuers to reach them, passenger Neil Halford noticed a piece of paper pinned beneath a rock beside the tracks.
I decided to go outside, and I'm walking around, and at one point I look over and I saw this piece of paper under a rock. I kind of walked past it at first, and then the little wheels start clicking in my head saying, well, we're a long way from anywhere, and I go, that's really odd that this piece of paper should be lying out here in the middle of nowhere.
It was a typewritten note containing an anti-government message accusing federal law enforcement of abuse of power and referencing incidents including Waco and Ruby Ridge. The note was signed by a previously unknown group, calling itself the Sons of Gestapo. Then, suddenly other passengers discovered several more notes, In total, 4 identical statements were discovered around the site of the derailment. The implication was impossible to ignore. The notes had not ended up beside the tracks by chance. Someone had placed them there deliberately. The Sunset Limited had not simply derailed in the Arizona desert. Someone wanted the world to know it had been sabotaged.
I am determined that we will make sure that in the United States we will have the tools, the means we need to keep the American people safe.
In the days and weeks following the derailment, investigators examined the section of track where the Sunset Limited had derailed. What they found confirmed it had been an act of sabotage.
And at this juncture right here, these bolts were loosened and removed, allowing these 2 plates to fall away. That effectively loosened this left rail. They were able to push it inward approximately 12 inches to about there.
29 track spikes, the large metal fasteners used to secure the rails to the track, had been removed, and the left rail had been shifted several inches out of position. The perpetrators used wires to prevent the signaling system from detecting a problem with the track. This suggested that whoever did it had a good understanding of both the railroad tracks and the signaling system. This was no random act of vandalism. Whoever carried out the attack knew exactly what they were doing. The discovery of notes appeared to offer investigators their biggest clue. Each contained anti-government messages accusing federal law enforcement agencies of abuse of power. The documents criticized the FBI and ATF, reference incidents including Waco and Ruby Ridge, 2 highly controversial confrontations between US federal authorities and armed civilians in the 90s, and argued that government agencies were operating without accountability. Each note was signed by a previously unknown group calling itself the Sons of Gestapo. At first glance, the note seemed to provide a motive for the attack, but as investigators dug deeper, the mystery only grew. Despite the group's apparent connection to the derailment, investigators found virtually no trace of any organization operating under the name. No known members were identified, no previous attacks were linked to the group, and no further activity was ever attributed to it. This left investigators with 2 competing possibilities. The notes may be a statement of motive and a reason for the attack, or an attempt to mislead investigators and divert attention from the real perpetrators. Theories ranged from a political attack by an anti-government extremist group to a disgruntled former employee with detailed knowledge of the railroad system. Yet, despite years of investigation, no theory has ever been proven. To this day, the FBI considers the case still open and offers a reward of $310,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible. The Palo Verde derailment claimed the life of Amtrak employee Mitchell Bates and left 78 others injured. Yet, more than 3 decades later, the mystery at the heart of the disaster remains unresolved. Who sabotaged the Sunset Limited and why they chose to target a passenger train remains unknown. It's a question that continues to haunt one of the most unusual and perplexing acts of railway sabotage in American history. That's all for today's video. If you found value in it, I'd love it if you subscribed and joined me for the next one. To watch another of my train disaster videos, you can click the link on screen. And as always, thanks for watching.